Welcome. Thank you for joining our Best Practices Series webinar. I'm Becky Melody, your hostess for today's presentation. Jim Kerr, USDM GRC Practice Leader, will be presenting. The discussion today will cover introductions, webinar logistics, direction for post-webinar collaboration, and our discussion topic, Achieving the Electronic Production Records in Life Sciences. If you do not see the presentation slides, please click on the tab near the top and center of your screen. We're very pleased to have Jim leading our practice. He is the USDM Senior Director for Oracle Life Sciences. He's a recognized industry speaker in areas valuable to life science organizations, including ERP program management, implementation of Oracle e-Business Suite, testing of GXP systems, electronic production records, organization learning management, technology adoption and change management, pedigree and serialization, as well as validating practice ERP systems. U.S. data management is focused exclusively in the life science domain. We're the market leader in providing IT, quality, and regulatory compliance professional service solutions. We're headquartered in Ventura, California, and we're the only West Coast VMware partner, VMware qualification expertise, and working with our VAPs. We've delivered more than 1,000 successful projects with over 130 life science clients. We are the preferred compliance partner for small, mid-tier, and large life science companies. We specialize in assisting clients with reducing the regulatory risk while maximizing their investment in quality systems, ECM, laboratory instruments, systems, and IT infrastructure. Our directive is to simplify, unify, and optimize compliance and business objectives. The content will be presented in approximately 30 minutes, and then we'll invite you to post questions for our team via the iLink message board on the lower left of your screen. We'll be happy to address the questions following the presentation, or if your question is more of a confidential nature, feel free to send me an email and we'll address them offline. The contact is rmelody@usdatamanagement.com. Thanks again for joining us, and now I'll turn the presentation over to Jim.
Okay, well, thanks, Becky. Thanks very much. Just a few more words about USDM before we get into our topics, which is, of course, achieving the electronic production record in life sciences. One of the things that I think makes USDM unique is that we have practices that are geared toward individual products that are Part 11 compliant and can provide you with the ability to move to an electronic production record. So our experience, the industries that we work in, the methods that we used, and this is an example of one that we use for Oracle. We have similar capabilities and practices for SAP and other systems that are also capable of producing an electronic production record. And these span across all of the areas in life sciences. As some folks may know, some systems have this capability and some do not. So it doesn't. While this session will be focused more on in manufacturing, there are of course other areas where paperless environments, paperless processing, and electronic records and signatures can be taken advantage of in areas like in the clinical areas, CRM, and different R&D and quality systems. So let's start off with the definition of what is an electronic production record, or EPR for short. Well, what it is essentially the way to go and move to a paperless manufacturing environment in a regulated industry, such as life sciences. It provides the ability to capture what are called 21 CFR Part 11 compliant electronic records and signatures, instead of having to write your records in handwritten paper records. 21 CFR Part 11 is a section of the U.S. Code of Federal Regulations that talks about the requirements around what constitutes an electronic record and a signature. And in life sciences, there's really two types of electronic production records. Most of life sciences can be lumped into either into discrete manufacturing or process manufacturing. For process manufacturing, you're typically talking about pharmaceutical manufacturing. It's referred to as an electronic batch record, or an EBR. The same equivalent for the medical device industry, or ones that are more of a discrete manufacturing environment. This is referred to as an EDHR, or an electronic device history record. And as you can probably imagine, there are a number of benefits. Some are obvious, but some maybe not so obvious. And a few of those are listed here. Probably more than any other benefit is the ability to enable companies to better control their processes. They can, through automatically collecting process data and equipment statuses in real time or as operations occur, rather than capturing information and data on paper, which doesn't get, typically doesn't get evaluated or analyzed until later on in the process. So much of the benefits around being able to go paperless is getting the information feedback in a much more timely fashion, or in a more real-time fashion. So you're really able to build quality into the process. You are able to move away from paper, which in almost all cases will reduce your costs. It should reduce your cycle times. And what it also does is that it helps you more clearly, more quickly, and in most cases more effectively identify and mitigate any risks that come up, whether they're exceptions, deviations, nonconformances, whatever the case may be. But the one, of course, that most folks think about when they talk about moving to an electronic production record is controlling costs, yet at the same time making sure that we don't lose or our ability to produce quality products that meet specification suffers. So this just simply shows that over time, as more and more computer systems are starting to be used now in life sciences, especially in areas like manufacturing, in quality, in the labs. If you go back even just 5 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, a lot of this didn't exist in many life sciences companies. And so the idea is, of course, the more technology, the less your ongoing cost of operation should be. So what are the things that make up an electronic production record? We get this question quite a bit. Well, it's all about your processes and how they map to your specific or your applicable set of regulations. So if you're in pharma, it's generally Part 210 and 211. If you're a medical device, it's Part 820. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. But in general, these are the kinds of records that needs to be included in an electronic production record. So the actual production data itself, so the actual completions of the operations and the data associated with that, quantities, who performed it, times, etc. The transactions around materials, whether they're material receipts, movements, or issues, both to and from a location or a warehouse, and to and from an actual work order. Any inspection records, any reviews that are occurring at any point, operator work instructions. Those need to be electronic and viewable within whatever electronic, maybe a manufacturing execution system that you're using. Test results, the status of equipment, whether cleans, calibration records, equipment, and maybe and also facility monitoring. You have your master data, recipes. In the medical device world, it's called a device master record, or DMR. Specifications are, of course, included. Any data related to the personnel that is performing the operation. So this can be, for example, training records that this particular operator is trained and meets the qualifications to perform this job. What also could be included is if you are integrating to other systems, depending on what it is and what types of data, those might also be included in an electronic production record. The ability to record exceptions and have those be part of it if there are any, and of course any deviations. So this is, for the most part, what really should be included when you're talking about the ability to move to a fully compliant electronic production record. And there's a few requirements around them. Or the first one here is that they need to be human readable. So I think we know they can't be things like technical code or anything like that. They need to be reviewable. You need to be able to produce them, whether it's in the form of reports or in the form of online queries in the case of a review. You also have to make sure that you have processes around monitoring the electronic production records and the data that you're producing. So this is really around making sure that the records are being produced the way they're supposed to be at the right times and being signed by the right people. Just ongoing monitoring, and which should also be able to fuel any kind of continuous improvement efforts that you may have. But what's probably arguably one of the more important requirements, and this is right out of the book, so to speak, and it's mentioned in a few areas, particularly in more recent GAMP 5 guidance. Systems shall be appropriately specified and verified to ensure that critical process parameters and overall system operations are implemented correctly, and that they're appropriate to each process step, or system function. And what this really means is you need to specify where and why, and even in how in some cases, where you will be utilizing electronic records and electronic signatures in your process. Now, of course, as many of us know, this is certainly easier said than done, because as the list that I just went through, along with those requirements, many times in many companies, this information is scattered across many different systems. Some folks who have the larger ERP systems like an Oracle or an SAP, sometimes these things are consolidated. But even if you have those, many times this is a very common scenario where there's supply chain management capabilities, materials management, recipe management, PLMs, it's product lifecycle management, LIMS systems, and so on. And when you get out into manufacturing, there's equipment or asset management, data acquisition, SCADA, HMIs, statistical process control systems, and so on. So there's a lot of systems, in many cases, for many folks, that's housing all of this data. Now, of course, getting to the electronic production record means, first and foremost, that the systems that you're using to capture these transactions need to be capable, or what we call 21 CFR compliant, 21 Part 11 compliant, capable. So it's got to be able to generate compliant electronic records. It's got to be able to give the ability for users to apply electronic signatures. It must have compliant audit trail capability. It's got to be able to produce reports. It's got to have certain minimum security capability, and it's got to provide some flexibility for your organization in terms of where you decide and why you decide to actually generate a record or generate a signature. But of course, the big question that most people ask is, well, what and where are these appropriate places? And that's really the million-dollar question, as they say. So I'm repeating this line that I mentioned earlier. But the second bullet I've added, which is you've got to document where and why your organization will utilize electronic records and signatures. And what we're going to talk about now is a method that we use at USDM to do this, to accomplish this. And the first part of this, and what really drives this, is by annotating process flows or business processes. So the first step in the journey really should be you're documenting your business processes. So whether they're pharmaceutical, medical device, quality in the labs, and all of the business processes where some of this data will reside. And I'm going to talk about some examples here in a second. We then annotate these business processes in a few different ways. We map them to your applicable regulations, and also you document where your records and signatures and audit trail is going to be used or utilized. So what I have here is just a simple example. I've picked a popular product lifecycle management system in the medical device industry, a system called Agile, which is now actually owned by Oracle. Oracle acquired them a few years back. And this particular business process is an engineering change notice that occurs inside of Agile. So it's a typical swim lane business process. And you'll see here we have different colors and different icons and things to help annotate this business process, and it tells you quite a bit of information over and above just what the steps of a process may be. And I'm going to kind of drill down into one of these boxes here, because I know on that previous slide it can be a little bit hard to read, but here's an example of how we document our business processes. First and foremost, we use red if it's in a computer system, and green if it's outside of the computer system. We have to remember the business processes are more than just what occur inside of a computer system. We can have this particular task drill down into a related SOP. So while this one may say have a QC inspector is the role, and they're going to capture in-process inspection results. Well, the details on how to do that in this example could be in a document SOP 3202. In the upper right corner is the system that it's occurring in. Now, it's important here because, as I mentioned earlier, in this particular case, all of the steps here are occurring in Agile, but you certainly can have processes that span across different systems, and this is how we identify those. So when there is integration between systems, you can still document the whole process, and in terms of where you're going to capture these records and signatures. So that one's pretty important. What you see as the upside down red triangle here is a way to identify that this particular task has a GMP impact or GMP relevance and the regulatory subpart that it impacts. And so in this particular case, we're talking about the medical device industry, so it's 820 subpart 80C. We also, through the icon in the lower right, will use an S equals E for an electronic signature or M for a manual signature. Again, it's up to how your business process and how you capture those records. So in this particular case, we're saying that when this QC inspector does indeed capture the in-process inspection results and enters them into the system, that they will be required to append an electronic signature. There will also be audit trail enabled, and that's a fully compliant audit trail that shows a complete history of all of the changes. So this is a pretty good example of how we document this, and the idea is that is that this can be used for many purposes, not just for compliance reasons. It's used to document the consistent design. It's used to formulate your test plan. What I've seen a lot is each one of these boxes becomes a test case, so to speak. It helps you organize your requirements. It helps you for training purposes, a training plan. You train people based on these processes, and you get into the details for each particular task. So, one of the things that is important is keeping your cost of compliance as low as possible and leveraging whatever you can do with an implementation or an upgrade so that you're leveraging the work that's already being done and not creating any extra work. And we certainly think that this is a really good way to do that. So what I'm going to do now is talk about an example of a system that has this capability, and I'm going to be talking about Oracle's release of what's called their e-business suite. Oracle has had this capability for a few years now, and there's several organizations out there that are already able and are already using this capability to go paperless and produce an electronic production record. So the first step of all of this is specifying and designing, and we've done that. And now we're going to talk about how it can be used in a real example. So the system, the solution itself has to be evaluated for Part 11 compliance and if it is in fact EPR capable. So in order to be EPR capable, it needs to meet a few minimum requirements. One is that it must have user level and user controlled security, especially because we need to record the individuals who are performing these transactions. It needs to have compliant audit trail capability. It needs to be able to have capability to do operation checks, performance monitoring, those kinds of things. It has to have a framework that is flexible, that's configurable, because it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. The data has to be searchable or mineable, so we've got to be able to parse through records, collate records by a work order, for example, or a batch. So that capability needs to be there. It does need to be configured to meet your needs, especially when you talk about things like approval processes. You may want to use a deferred signature. You may want an operator, to perform a transaction, but then you want someone in quality to also sign that event. In other words, defer the signature. So there's lots of examples of that, and that's going to really be completely dependent upon your business process. So in this particular case, and this is the example of Oracle, they have this capability, and they've been they've been evaluated by many organizations in life sciences. And one of the things that it really kind of boils down to is the user experience. And so while behind the scenes there's a lot of stuff going on, to the user it's consistent. It's the concept of, and this is mentioned, of course, in Part 11, the sign what you see concept, the ability to say, to verify that they've reviewed what they're signing and they understand what they're signing, and then, of course, to actually apply the username and password. So in the case of Oracle, their capability, which is called their Oracle eRecords solution, or ERES, as it's often referred to, this is where the flexibility comes in. And it can be really enabled anywhere where it's needed, according to, really at minimum, 820, 211, and even Part 58, and even others. So this capability today exists in Agile, in their Agile capability. So you can enable electronic records and signatures for controlling master data, things like items, bombs, formulas, recipes, depending on the industry you're in. In engineering, particularly for routings, all along the production path, if you will, for both discrete and process manufacturing. So whether they're WIP transactions, as they're referred to in discrete, or process execution transactions, and there are different types, whether they're scrap assemblies or WIP completions and steps and step completions, etc. All the signatures and the records and signatures can be enabled in all of these areas. It also exists in Oracle Quality. So if you're doing your inspections and your test results and maybe other quality-related information, it can be enabled there. If you're someone who uses Agile and uses their PQM capability, and if you're using it for deviations, kappas, even just documents, and there's all different kinds of documents, of course, it can be used there. Oracle Inventory for any necessary material transactions, and even into Oracle Purchasing to manage your approved supplier list when you're doing receipts. And this is not a comprehensive list, but it does exist in all the areas where it's needed. And again, based on the regulations. So in the end, and to really sum things up here, if you want to go on the path of moving toward the electronic production record, and for most companies, it's a long path and it's a long journey, depending on where this data is being recorded and your business process, the size of your organization, and of course the migration strategy in and of itself can be a large effort. But it boils down to really three things. You need to have a corporate ERES policy, first and foremost. You then need to have your documented and specified and then tested, which really gets back to what I mentioned earlier around, and one of those ways that we at USDM help our customers is to use some of the tools that we have to do that. And then you got to go find a system or systems that are Part 11 or EBR capable. And so it's really the combination of your policy, your corporate policy, your specification, and then, of course, actually implementing the capability. So that's really all that I have for today. Is there anyone out there who has any questions that I might be able to answer? Or Becky, maybe if I could turn it over back to you here, Becky.
Terrific. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate you sharing that solid information. We do appreciate that so many of you took the time to join us today, and we trust the information that Jim has shared has been helpful for you. We do welcome your questions and comments. Any feedback, of course, will assist us with continual improvement, and we're certainly open to suggestions for future presentation topics. Yes, Jim, we do have questions coming in. Looks like the first one is from Sherry. It says, what needs to be displayed in an e-signature block?
Okay. Well, part of this is dictated by the requirements of 21 CFR Part 11. And in it, you need to be able to present to the signer what it is they're signing, the idea of the sign what you see. So it needs to be a summary, if you will, of the transaction that they performed. You need to have some kind of verification, and a lot of times it's a radio button or a checkbox that says I have indeed read this record. You need to be able then, of course, to provide their ability to put in their username and their password, and then also the ability to accept or reject, and a place for comments, and if there is a rejection, a place to have a list of reasons or a reason code, if you will. So that's usually the minimum that you need to do when you're talking about an electronic record of signature, especially one that involves an approval of some sort.
Thank you, Jim. It looks like the other questions coming on are more specific about where can we access the presentation. So I'll share with you all that the presentation has been recorded and will be available on the U.S. Data Management site. Typically takes us about 24 hours or so to get it posted there. The site is, of course, usdatamanagement.com. You just click on the Webinars tab, about middle center of that screen, our sign-in screen. You can see upcoming webinars as well as any recorded sessions that are listed along the far right of the screen. Just click on the title and you log in and listen to the session as it's been recorded and posted. We do appreciate, again, everyone taking the time. We do want to make sure that the information we're sharing is on target and at an appropriate level for you, so we would be very happy to hear feedback from you. We do appreciate you joining us, and on behalf of the U.S. Data Management team, we appreciate the opportunity to team with you towards excellence in compliance. Thanks again, and have a wonderful day.